States are central to international law. As history has shown, international law was created by states for them, and it was designed to apply between them. States are said to be active subjects of international law, but the question is, what is a state as a legal subject under international law? Instinctively, we all know what the state is. But what is the legal personality of a state? We would all agree that Rwanda is a state, but it is very likely that we would agree on the statehood of some other territories in dispute. How can we tell that an entity is a state within the defined meaning of international law? Three elements are considered when characterizing a state. First, a territory. Second, a population. And third, an effective government. Those three elements are notably recalled by the Montevideo Convention on the Rights and Duties of States, a convention concluded during the 17th International Conference of American States in 1933. The convention was set to codify statehood criteria and organize the declarative theory of statehood. The Montevideo Convention adds a fourth element, the capacity to enter into relations with other states. We could include this fourth element in the notion of effective government. An effective government should be able to entertain international relations. Let's review the criterion. First, territory. There is no state without territory, which is an area of land attached to the crust of this planet. This is because we exist on a plane of the land, not in the sea or in the air. This land must be a natural territory, not an artificial platform above the waves. However, there is no need to have a territory with clear and undisputed borders all around. What matters is the control over a certain territory. The size of the territory does not matter. It is important to realize that the concept of state sovereignty is intrinsically linked to territory so much that the territorial sovereignty is crucial to statehood. The arbitrator Max Huber once wrote, "Sovereignty in relation to a portion of the surface of the globe is the legal condition necessary for the inclusion of such portion in the territory of any particular state." Sovereignty in relation to territory is called territorial sovereignty. Sovereignty in the relations between states signifies independence. Independence in regard to a portion of the globe is the right to exercise the exclusion of any other state. Second on the list of criteria is population. There is no state without a population, without nationals of the state living on the territory. Again, the size of the population does not matter, but it must not be an empty space nor a space with wild animals only. And the population should live on the territory on a permanent basis. The population can of course move around according to the seasons, but it must be there. It does not matter if the population has the nationality of the state or nationalities of several other states. That is another matter. And it is possible, even if it has never occurred, it is possible that the state does not grant its nationality to anyone. Third, an effective and independent government. What is required is that the population living on the territory be socially organized, governed, and represented by authorities that can effectively enforce the international obligations of the state on the territory, and the population and those authorities must be independent. Meaning, they must not obey orders from outside and must act in an autonomous way. Traditionally, states are free under international law to choose whatever form and nature of government they prefer. International law is indifferent to the nature of the political regime of the state. Moreover, international law prohibits outside interference in what are called the sacrosancts, domestic affairs of the state. This being said, more and more states agree in treaties to have a democratic form of government and to respect some fundamental political freedoms. However, if treaties have been concluded and are binding under the state, that state is not free under international law to have an undemocratic government. Treaty states are encouraged to govern their people by the rule of international law. Historically, states have established themselves as states because they were able to do so as a matter of fact, and this may explain why territory, population, and governments are sometimes said to be constitutive elements of the state. However, it is a misconception by constitution if one considers that the state stops existing as a state if one of the three elements comes to be missing. In fact, this is not the case. The state survives and does not disappear if it lacks an effective government. For instance, Germany was left without any central government after the fall of the Third Reich, but it did not disappear as a state. Therefore, instead of considering those three elements as constitutive of states, it is a better view to see them as criteria for the identification of states. They help to identify that entity and label them as a state, rather than something else like a tribe or an international organization. The act by which existing states officially take notice of the existence of a new state and admit it as one of their peers is called state recognition. Self-recognition of a state, also known as self-identification, is a concept in international law that refers to the acknowledgement by a state that it is a sovereign and independent entity. This means that the state recognizes itself as having its own government, territory, population, and the capacity to engage in legal and diplomatic relations with other states. Self-recognition is an important aspect of statehood and is considered to be a key criterion for a state to be recognized by the international community. This recognition can come from other states or international organizations, but ultimately, a state's self-recognition is what gives it legitimacy and authority in the international arena. It is important to note that not all entities that claim to be states are recognized as such by the international community. Nonetheless, self-recognition is an important factor in determining whether an entity is considered a state or not. Islam Moors.